work session of the week on Monday, June 30th. How did we get to the end of June?
Oh,
So quickly. Okay. Commissioner Sharon Bolos, I am here with Commissioner Jim Harvey and Commissioner Gage Froer. Our first item is a discussion and or action for approval of the minutes for the commission work session held on June 23rd, 2025.
motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We are going to table item 3 and we'll have that on a future agenda. Or sorry, item 2, and we'll move to item 3. Discussion regarding Westbridge Meadows rezone and development agreement. Charlie Ewert. Are the others coming, Charlie?
I think so.
And
People out there, I think.
Yeah, we do have the developer and we've got Andrew Favero as well
Okay.
out there.
Liam Keogh and Charlie Ewert from the staff. And then we have some others coming, so. It just lists a whole bunch of staff members, Gary, Rick, Tammy, Tucker,
I
Ashley,
invited,
Chad.
all of them seem to be really interested. Maybe they think it's gonna be at 1 o'clock though. They got used to 1 o'clocks.
So.
Morning.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning, good morning.
How is everybody?
Just right.
Oh.
Yes.
Just right.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just call it early. Let's get.
Yeah, let's do, how you doing?
Fireworks now. Yeah, let's just get the fireworks going.
Oh,
All right, well, thanks everyone thanks for rescheduling. We appreciate that. We did not have this funeral planned until later last week, so. We had to clear our afternoon. Charlie, I don't know if you want to start. I know what you're gonna say.
I'm gonna,
Commissioners, what else do you have?
yeah, I'm asking you guys what else you wanted to discuss. I can pull up anything you need to on the screen if desired.
Well, I'll start with you, Commissioner Ford.
I don't think, I think we talked about what I had. In terms of that extra 300 feet. I just wanted to be clear that, as far as I'm concerned, that's between the state and. You guys, whether that happens or not. I'm not prepared to take that as part of your agreement. Maybe, they've got tens of thousands of acres out there. If they want it, then the state should do it. That'd be like telling a private property owner that you've got to negotiate with your neighbor. To me, that's not within our purview of duty. So if you want to make the deal, they want to make the deal, make the deal. But I'm not gonna in no way require that you deed that as part of your development.
Yeah, we
I just
stayed
want-
after with Rich after the last meeting and set some groundwork for trying to set up a meeting and.
Yeah,
was Rich the DWR guy or the DNR guy?
Yeah, he was the guy that was here last.
and they need to understand, I think I told them this, Gary, you've got connections.
Yeah.
They need to go to their director.
Yep. We
And
talked about that. They were gonna reach out to his supervisor and work through that.
so how it has to do, so when they do their budget for next year, they can put that in as appropriation request.
Right.
But if it doesn't go in from their side, it's not gonna happen. I just wanna make sure you understand
Of
that.
course, yeah. Absolutely.
So it's a little higher than these guys.
Mhm.
They put in an appropriation request, it goes to the committee, it'll either be approved or not. And I'm happy to help, but I'm not gonna put their budget together.
Not our job.
Not my job, sorry.
And
Anyway.
the private guys need to saddle up with those guys too,
Absolutely.
okay? Okay.
Anyway, that's all
what
I've got.
In a perfect world, that's what I hope happens.
Yeah.
Any other update? You haven't met yet, it sounds like.
Yeah, we met with Rich, like Cameron said, after the meeting, and he asked Rich if you're gonna be dealing with him. He said no, and that he's going to connect us with his supervisor. And so
Did he give a name?
he did not.
He told us it'd be the same guy that wrote the letter and then Charlie forwarded us the letter. So we know the guy. Well, we know his name. But we have yet to meet with him. But
What's his name, Charlie?
Michael Canning,
That's right.
Kenning?
Canning, Canning, Deputy Director of DWR or DNR. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, DNR,
DNR.
yeah. Yeah,
Have you met him before, Andrew? No.
Seeing if you have him in your contacts.
I don't have him. Michael Canning, the Deputy Director of the DNR. Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right, anything from you, Commissioner Harvey?
No, I think for the most part, Gage is probably right. I don't wanna blow his head up. I'm not probably that strong, but I'd sure like to see that happen. Cause I'm a upland game bird guy, you know, but I say that, but it's been 40 years since I've been, so. But I know that kind of goes away if not, so.
Yep.
And I've talked to a few citizens out there, I think it's, from our position, it represents a good and genuine, interest towards facilitation for that to happen. All in all, but I think they're gonna have to play by the rules that are there now. The fact that they told you to pound sand originally really concerns me. If that's how they're treating other people, that's not cool at all. And so no wonder there's a problem, you know, so, but I'm gonna get that word out to the private guys. So they can all focus on the same thing and it'll be that Michael Canning guy. So that's all there is to it. I don't mind telling you, just personally, this is a little unsettling for me, cause this is absolutely huge. It's it'll be one of the bigger things we do while we're here, cause it represents so much that can be out there, but I wanna make sure, Liam, from a legal standpoint, that whatever decision from my position, whatever decision we make, I can't come back on future commissions, negatively on future commissions. I don't wanna pigeonhole them into anything. I want them to be able to make their own decisions. Regarding, you know, still have some autonomy. But this represents a huge deal for us, and if this were to go through, when would you start? I mean, you've already kind of started, but when would we start seeing equipment out on site working? That's a fair question, and the
It is
first
a
thing
good
would be infrastructure and the bridge. What would there be a timeline? Well, I just spitball. I wouldn't hold you
Yeah.
to it, but
If
we
we,
2026, 2030, what are you thinking?
if we hit full gas after approvals, we're still 2 years away from being able to see a shovel on the ground, so to speak, meaning there's a lot of engineering left to do. There's a lot of environmental, studies that have to be done in order for a bridge to even be contemplated. We gotta start with environmental. And then then the bridge has to be engineered. All of the other utility infrastructure, lot of engineering. And that engineering is not only, quite expensive, but it's time consuming as well, right? Cause we'll have 3 or 4 engineering studies going at the same time. Then we gotta bring them all together. Then all those decisions get made on exactly the alignment of the bridge, all of that stuff. That's, like I said, if we went full gas, which we intend to do, it'd be 2 years. We've been feeling like it's more like 3 years, cause we gotta give.
2028.
Yeah, we've gotta give ourselves a little bit of slop in there to
If
be,
you give yourself a little more time, you eliminate the possibility for change orders.
and doing stuff wrong, right? Just not doing it right, and we don't wanna do that. right?
Yeah, right out of the gate, the first two hurdles we have to clear are the sewer capacity and the bridge,
Mhm.
right? Those are the two main constraints. The water we can bring in, it's there. It's a mile away, but it's there. But the sewer, permitting a sewer plant through the state is a 2 to 3 year process, depending on which way we go. If we team up with Little Mountain and do a lagoon style sewer plant, it's 3 years. If we do compact process plant, we can do that one faster, probably in about 2 years. But right out of the gate, we gotta solve the sewer and the bridge. And like, Jeff was saying, the bridge to cross that major river is gonna take probably just as long as the sewer to permit and design that bridge, so. We're thinking optimistically, there's a shot we could get equipment out there and start sometime at the end of 2027. But more realistically, we're focused on 2028 with a groundbreaking and real effort out there on construction. Now, the whole time, in the next 2 to 3 years, we're gonna be 100% dedicated to the engineering process. And we're gonna get these master engineering studies over to Charlie and Rick and Gary. And they're gonna give us feedback on, you know, how that's looking, because what we're doing is developing a town center out there. So we need to make sure that it's gonna accommodate all that. So there's gonna be a lot of planning that goes into that. Once that engineering is complete, then we'll start actually permitting it. It's realistically 2027 or 2028 before we start.
And maybe just a small preview and to piggyback on that. You'll also see, you will more than likely see us back here.
For our first plat.
Well, not only first plat, but you'll probably see us back here talking about property on the east side. Because that's where our access is coming from. And so we are talking to, you know, a couple of key property owners on that east side of the river for the alignments to come through. So I think that, you know, probably the next time you'll see us would be in relation to the goings on the east side. Then you'll know we're getting close, right? Cause then by then, you know, our engineering will dictate alignments, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll be back talking about that. And then we'll be looking at building a bridge. So anyway, a lot going on. That's a long.
That's not a metaphor, that's a physical, actual, right?
Yeah, it's a long answer for 2 to 3 years before you see equipment out there. Yeah, before you see equipment.
Yeah.
Charlie, what are you doing there with all these pictures?
So I'm just pulling up some images that we haven't talked about yet. They're proposed flex homes. This is their attainable housing component of the project. To be fair, if they're being responsive to market demand, it's probably most of the project's going to be attainable. Attainable at various different affordability thresholds. But to help the county with its moderate to median household income, they have proposed a flex home style. So basically, this is a little bit what Nielsen Homes is doing. It's just their own take on it. They create the footing and foundation for a house, an expansion to a house, and a garage. And then you can grow your home as your family grows. So you add on to the back of it, you can add on a garage, you can add on additional living space and all that. They've just got it all pre-laid out with footings and foundation extension that goes into the ground up front. So I just want to show you that we haven't talked about that yet, but I didn't want to focus on this so long as you guys had any other questions on the big ticket items.
Do you have any other questions, Commissioner Harvey? Will you go back? I saw you flipping through this at the beginning and it talked about considerations for the rezone. Will you-
Yep, let me do
And I
this.
don't necessarily, we only have about 15 minutes left, but, so I don't necessarily want to go through your whole slideshow, but will you just touch on each of those things?
So the ordinance lists these, or is it 5, 6, these 6 criteria for whether or not a rezone is merited. Now, you guys get to decide ultimately whether or not you even apply any of these 3 criteria, or 6 criteria, but these are the items that should be considered as we look at these, and these are the items that the planning commission considered. So whether or not the project is consistent with the general plan, the planning commission said, yes, it is consistent with the general plan.
Was there any discussion about it not being
Not being consistent?
consistent? Any,
I mean, there was a lot of discussion about whether it was consistent and, yeah, we pulled up the general plan, we pulled up the, future land use map and, kind of worked through what it looked like with the planning commission and they agreed that it was in compliance. with the
so
plan.
no unresolved concerns about that? Okay, all right. keep
No.
going.
Compatibility with existing development, if you read the whole sentence in the code, it says, compatibility with existing development and if it is inconsistent, why it's inconsistent in relation to the general plan. So sometimes if the general plan says something needs to change, it may not be exactly compatible with what's on the ground now, but if the proposal is compatible with what the plan says should be changed, then we would consider it consistent with the overall. Impacts on adjacent properties. There's not a ton of adjacent properties up in this area. We have had several public hearings. We've had folks from the neighborhood come to those meetings. Not a lot of folks come into those meetings, but a few, including the DWR. You got the railroad to the north, you got the river to the east, you got DWR to the south, and then you've got a handful of homeowners on 7500 West. We haven't heard significant outcry from anyone on 7500.
I've talked to a couple people actually on 7500 West and surprisingly to me, they were okay. I, I think I held my face pretty good, but it's amazing.
Were there any of the property owners other than the railroad and those, you haven't heard anything from? Do you know?
Um. There are people that we haven't heard anything from, and they've all received postcards. They all should be aware that this is coming. And so it just tells me that they're not as concerned.
When you say handful, how big is that handful? You count them on one hand?
No, we probably have, I could look it up. We probably have 30 or 40
Okay,
different landowners, that
some
are not
bigger
part
and
of the
some
project.
smaller, I'm assuming.
Yep, some with just a house on an acre, some with, larger farm areas over there.
Yeah.
And I would bet that if we looked into the people that the county hasn't heard from, we've talked to them.
Right.
And they've either expressed to us their wishes or, like for instance, the Wilsons have kind of been silent on the whole issue. But we bought a major portion of their property. But we have talked to the mom and the sister who don't want to develop, and we're trying to accommodate the plan around them in a way that benefits them. But I know that they haven't reached out to the county, but that's, even though the county might not have heard from them, we've been trying to talk to everybody and make sure that their needs are accommodated.
I appreciate that because, I think that communication is such a big factor. At least that's what I found in West Haven, that the less people know, the more
Yeah.
wound up they are, and it, just sometimes a conversation can help them understand, and also the ability, when you say work with the plan to accommodate them, that's important too, because I've seen developers go back and say, if that's what you want adjacent, we can make some more changes further away from you, and just really work with those property owners, I think is a, it's not required. And so I think it's even more appreciated to try to accommodate those that it's immediately affecting, even if there are things that are changed further deeper into the area.
Agreed. I think a lot of them as well have been through a lot of the inland port adoption of that area. So I think a lot of them, from what I've found, and I agree with Cameron, we've in one way or another, whether it's at a meeting or just being out on the property and meeting people, we have met a lot of them, and I think the inland port adoption process, I think socialized, that concept, that area out there is due for growth. And so, and I think for what it's worth as well, it has been surprisingly well received. It really has. Were you gonna?
We had 3 people at the meeting that weren't related to the DWR issue, and they live out there. And, being from out that way and then having people that live down in that area, relatives, it's very well notified.
Yeah.
People know about it.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it in my mind that people know about it. I feel very
Yeah.
confident that they know. And really, we had Steve Davis, he was representing himself in the West Warren Water District. Blair Penrod, which you have some property in this project of his or possibly his. And then Lori Fielding, which Blair and Lori are relatives. That's all the Penrod property out there. Those were the only 3 out of, I don't know what we have here, 15 or 16 people that got up and spoke.
The rest of them were DWR related.
Right.
And the locals, two of the questions that came out of the locals is, will any of their properties be rezoned with this? I think one of the concerns was, basically expressing the concern, is the county in the habit of rezoning other people's properties? And so our answer was no, not unless you guys are ready. Someone's gonna have to sign the bottom line. It's gonna be need to be the owner. So if the owners are okay with it, they'd be okay with it. If not, they won't be included.
Yeah.
So on 7500 West, those people out there, none of their properties will be rezoned in this. They'll have to come in and make application just like everybody else.
There are a couple of properties that these guys are picking up that will be, but
That's a private deal between them. I'm talking about if Mike Smith out there decides he's got 10 acres and he doesn't want nothing to do with it. Until he decides his 10 acres is protected, it won't be a part of this.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, you can look at the screen here. This screen shows, this is Google Earth and where I'm showing the rezones. And only those colored areas will be affected by the rezone, and those are areas that the applicant either has control over or has the option to buy. Any one of them, if that option isn't taken, wouldn't be included in the rezone, not until the owner decides to take it. But some of them, for example, some areas in here, they may have the option to buy in, and we've got a little clause in the development agreement that says what happens if they choose to become a part of this project.
Like an annexation area, because we anticipate that, that they could do
Yeah.
that.
And they won't be required to hook into the sewer or anything like that. They just,
Right.
but they will have the benefit of being able, this is important. They will have the benefit of being able to use the road or the bridge.
Sure.
So when they get stuck by the same train, they can use another way out.
Yeah. And
They're not gonna have to pay a toll. Is
That's
that what
right.
you're getting at?
No, not kind of, but not really.
Will you go back to that list?
Yep.
And I know that when this actually starts unfolding, we may not even be here. And so I don't know, other than your word, how to guarantee that you'll work with those property owners, because that's really important to me. I think in a project this big, there's ample opportunity to shift whatever they perceive as negatively impactful, to shift that further away from them. It's just so big. They don't want something adjacent to their property. There's no reason why you can't move that away. So I hope that happens, because you have the ability to do that. I think we covered everything except maybe the bottom one. You can just touch on that.
Traffic mitigation. Yeah, so we've actually talked quite a bit about roads coming out to the project and how to mitigate the amount of traffic that will be coming to the project over time. Mentioned to you guys that we don't want to see any one of those east-west corridors drop below level service C before one of the other corridors is brought up to par. So hopefully over long term, we don't see significant traffic snarls out there. We're hoping to grow the roads as the project grows. And doing so essentially at the applicant's dime, provided that the impacts are related to their development.
Can that be part of the agreement?
It's in it.
I mean, I know that the fire code requires no more than 30 and all that, but I want to make sure that progress that you're talking about is part of the agreement.
It's in there.
I'd say that's pretty robust part of the development agreement is the traffic, and we already commissioned a way bigger than we all wanted traffic study, right? It's the most boring read ever. And I guess if you're looking to go to bed early and go to sleep early, you can start reading that, but we commissioned that study, we commissioned the summary study, but then we also agreed on how regular we can, we'll update those traffic scenarios so that we make sure that we're responsibly developing to avoid these snarls, right?
Yeah, that's really
You get
important,
it.
because
Very
as
important.
it starts to develop, there's always gonna be so much more to develop. So you're not only gonna have the existing traffic from new homeowners and businesses, but still the construction traffic
Yep,
from the remainder of the project for years.
for years and years, and that, like, again, that's something, especially with a master plan. It's something that is, I mean, you just have to be way out in front of it, and I like the way we set it up in the development agreement. And we had our traffic study, our traffic engineer kind of set up this, we call it like a buffet style ability for us to expand. So that we can look, it makes it easy for us to look down the road, anticipate what's coming, and make choices based on with the county, right? We'll never make those decisions in a silo. It'll be in conjunction with the input of the county, that this is our next choice, this is our next choice, this is our next choice, in order to try to avoid that. So I think that's a very, very, like I said, it's a really robust part of the development
Okay.
agreement.
And Charlie, I think this is the project I asked you last week, if you could come back with the overall density.
That was actually the other project, I believe.
Will
Yeah.
you find it for me on this?
Yeah, the overall density for this project was, what was the total, was about 13,000
13,199.
units.
How many per acre?
Over 14. Oh, it's about 10. It's
10
about
per
10 per acre. Mhm.
Okay. Did you have something?
Sure. Yeah, one thing that fits within the considerations here And it could go in a couple places, either environmental considerations or adequacy of facilities and services. And we've talked about this pretty extensively with the applicant through the planning commission process, but that's drainage. And I think that the improvements they're going to make along the river will help a lot. But also, you know, I think you're gonna consider into your engineering, you know, kind of a cutoff to go down through there somewhere. So that we can eliminate those high water year
Yeah.
emergencies that we have right there in that area
Yeah.
that affect. That area is actually affected more than on the other side of the tracks. Now. It depends on where you live as to how much, you know, how much passion you have involved in that. There's just a few more people that live on the other side now versus this project. But that's something from the planning commission, but also from a personal side that I've seen over my lifetime. And, I know we've had those conversations and as, you know, that's something that can be almost not on a daily basis like traffic, but on a every so many years basis,
Mhm.
more of an urgency than, you know, some of the other things that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that land lies and the way that it drains.
Yeah, we've got, I mean, preliminarily, right, that's gonna be part of the engineering studies that we do immediately. It's a pretty dynamic, you know, sluice system to be able to ensure that, you know, we can handle, you know, the 100-year, 500-year events and going back to the tours that we did on the projects down in Utah County, the one in American Fork specifically. We didn't really point it out, but a lot of sluice systems that run through that project. There was a lot of drainage. We had to deal with a lot of drainage, so we're pretty savvy in that regard, and I would say that our engineers that we have working on the projects are very good at that. So obviously, Gary and his team will have an opportunity to weigh in, and we're looking forward to that step. So, but that's great.
Anything else?
No, it's,
Anything else?
Well, I just say this, so I'm pretty familiar with that dirt out there. So I think, as Andrew know, I owned him and looked at basically everything east along the river. And I bought the Merbrook Dairy, which is on the west side, so I know that dirt very well. And I say that in terms of what my view is for the future, if you can take, and that, you know, it was basically unproductive ground.
Right.
Salt grass, that's a place that homes should be on. I've said this before, rather than take our prime agricultural, so, you know, again, I had been on boots on the ground over 1,000 acres, 1,200 acres over the past number of years.
Yeah.
So I know the dirt, I don't think that, and I know the river, the engineer's gonna have to deal with the river. In some years it floods, some years it doesn't, but, you look at the east and west and you look at the deep, you know, you look at the state ground through there. You've gotta work within the parameters of that entire situation out there, so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and again, it's not gonna happen overnight. I think your 3 years may be optimistic.
Yeah, yeah,
Knowing that dirt out there that I do,
Yeah.
I think 3 years will be busting your butt,
yep, yeah.
so.
I've got gray hair now,
Yeah.
and 3 years from now, it'll be totally gray.
Or you won't have any.
That's right, yeah, that's probably well said. So,
Okay, well,
Anyway,
Got okay with a public hearing in a couple weeks?
I think so, yeah.
I'm good with
Yeah.
that.
well, you're saying 2 weeks, 1, 2, we won't be here.
About 3
Yeah,
3 weeks, okay.
It's had a public hearing at the planning commission?
It has, you guys will have a public hearing as well with
Yeah.
it, but.
Yeah, we need to. Okay, yeah.
So what date we looking at?
yeah, let's pick, cause I'm also not in a couple weeks, but.
so 2, to be the 16th. Or 17th, right there. Tuesday, the 16th-ish.
15th yeah, well,
Tuesday,
that's 2 weeks.
we got 15th or
The
the
22nd would be 3.
22nd.
22nd?
Yeah, that's the one. Cause we'll be, yeah. 22nd.
Okay, 22nd it is. We'll plan on it.
I'll actually be back on Monday, but we gotta, so let's do it the 22nd.
Okay,
Okay, great.
all right, thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Don't want them change orders just in case.
Nobody likes them.
Well, I'm just trying to.
we've done our best to minimize those.
I know you have.
Well, another one. But it's
What?
But it's for the Weaver Basin portion, not our portion.
I was gonna
And
say,
it's Tucker saying that,
Yeah,
not
it's me,
Gary,
yeah.
so.
We just fine.
But the water line's done, right?
That's close, close. They.
Probably gotta go for another drive out there.
there's been a lot of changes out there past 3 months.
Hey, how's
Made a lot of
the,
progress.
how's the bridge coming on 4100?
Fantastic.
I got chewed out on that over the weekend, saying that
In what regards?
they said it's taking forever to finish. I said, Gary told me it's on schedule.
When we started with 150 days, Commissioner, and we're, the end of July will be right in that window. So
Okay.
we're right on track.
Yeah, I said, I thought we're in good shape.
We're, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
With that, you have to let it cure, you put in concrete down, then it has to cure for 20 days, and then you pour the next one, and you gotta let it cure before you can do it, but it's.
people see it sitting while it cures. The reality of it is the strength that concrete needs to hit. We might hit it early, but
Okay.
until we start seeing brakes come in on cylinders, yeah.
Okay.
We gotta get it where
He got a little riled. I said, I think we're on schedule, but.
Yeah, we're on track.
Yeah, all right, good.
Commissioners, I'm just popping my head in really quick. Is that okay? Sean sent me an email. It relates to the Kiesel facility, and we were wondering if right after this meeting, if you have 5 minutes for just an administrative item to discuss that. It's the letter of intent that came through.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
that okay? Can we discuss that after this
Yeah.
meeting?
We'll just adjourn this one and.
Yeah. So I'll just pop back over when that's ready. Okay, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Scott.
All right, we're on item 4 now, discussion regarding EECBG voucher program. Stephanie, looks like you're online. Thank you for
Hi,
joining us.
everybody. Yes, so we need to spend some money that was given to us by the federal government. So we wanted to get some feedback from the commission today on the kind of direction on how to spend this grant funding. This grant funding was part of the green initiatives that came out, and I had applied for a electric vehicle for Sean's department, as well as the installation of a charging station at the Weaver Center. So that's kind of the discussion we'd like to have, and to see what direction you'd like us to move in relative to purchasing the electric vehicle. Sean's got some information to provide, and then we'll take your marching orders and get this one wrapped up.
Well, Sean's not
By
here.
Sean, does she mean you, Bill?
Well, I was
Oh, I'm
just-
sorry. I thought Sean was in there. Sorry.
No, Sean had to be at the jail for that meeting, so
Gotcha.
we're dividing conquering, so he
Okay.
didn't say much, besides, will you attend this? So, I don't know,
You can kind of
I was
jump
gonna
in.
say,
So I
we're
talked
mostly
to,
gonna pick what kind of vehicle
Yeah.
we're looking at, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
so he talked to you guys separately last week a little bit about different vehicles. So we're just looking for recommendation on what kind of vehicle you want us to go towards. We have to put out, figure out what kind of vehicle, and then get 3 different bids from different dealerships in order to get our procurement process. It's under 100 grand. The voucher program, I think it was 75 grand, between 75 and 80 there. And so we're just looking for recommendations on what vehicles you might want to add to the fleet, whether that's the F-150 Lightning, Tesla. Ogden just purchased a few Kia Niros, they're electric vehicles, so any
Is the
recommendation?
grant gonna cover the entire cost?
Mhm.
I don't have a
And-
recommendation.
The other cities that have done this haven't gone with Tesla or top of the line, just
Uh-huh.
because of, the image that.
Perception, for sure.
Yeah,
for
So
sure.
they've gone, so we were leaning towards the Lightning or something like that, that would be a benefit, and
I
we
agree.
utilize it in property management, so it would be ideal, but.
Yeah, I
That's gonna be
agree.
my question. Do we need a pickup or, I mean,
It can be anything, but yeah, for our department, it'd be better if it was a truck, but it doesn't have to be, I mean.
Okay.
Mhm.
It could go to the motor pool too, it could be a car, go to the motor pool, we could use it for many different things, so.
So,
Go ahead.
let me nerd out. I was doing some research, just, it's cause I nerd on this.
Yeah, you do.
The 2 I recommended was that and the ID4 VW, and I looked at the vehicles that take the biggest depreciation or have over, and I can tell you, cause I drive one of them. Ford F-150 Lightning is one of that have taken the biggest depreciation, and the VW ID4 is the next one. So the 2 that I thought would be the best ones have taken greatest appreciation. Also, the Porsche Taycan is in that, but that's not in one of our runnings, so although it'd be a sweetheart. But that, I think as you're trying to manage the business of Weber County, I think you stay away from vehicles that take the greatest appreciation. They said in electric vehicles, the ones who didn't take the biggest appreciation, they named two: Tesla, Rivian. It'd be great if we could afford a Rivian, but we probably could only get it. But that's, and maybe what you do is you order the, instead of the R1T or the R1S, you do an R2S, which that platform will be available end of fourth quarter 2025, first quarter 2026. The R2S Rivian.
Okay.
So that would be my, sorry to be so nerd on this,
Okay, that's what.
but I'd say Tesla
Over here.
or
Rivian.
a Rivian. Those have the, and I think from a county perspective, as we're trying to depreciation, that'd be the best on the other end. We'd lose the least amount of money on those vehicles. That's my 2 cents.
That's great. We'll look, Ashlyn's managing this grant, so she'll look at the bid process as well as the if we can do the pre-order, which I'm sure we probably could. We'll look through that federal application and make sure that's okay. The other thing we need to talk really quickly about is we've applied, part of this grant was to put in a charging station, and we need to still make sure we have enough money to do that. If we put in the charging station ourselves, like we don't hire anybody to do it, we don't have to do Davis-Bacon reporting, which is a boon for everybody. So we talked about doing just one station at the Weber Center. And if we did that, would you have a preference as to where we put that at the Weber Center?
Bryce had talked about, I talked to him just this morning about this also. I mean, ideally, because our electrical stuff's on the east side, but it's just as easy, it would be easy. The question came up, Stephanie, would we just utilize this for this electric vehicle, or would it be
Yes.
public?
Yeah, it
We
would
were
just be
thinking-
for us, yeah.
We shoot across from our electrical and put it in the north parking, and then we're not messing with any of the, you know, the gear commissioner parking or any of our veterans or handicap.
Or handicap, yeah.
Could easily just come out the side here and have a charging station here in the north parking
Well,
lot.
that might be smarter because that might be less impacted by the Weber block.
Until they develop that into not a parking lot, that's the concepts all have that as a specific.
But it has the whole block is
But
impacted
at
too,
that
I
point,
guess, right?
it's not hard to move it. That's the
Okay.
thing. It just, I mean, we plan on that, but it's real easy to, I mean, cause by then you're gonna change the whole east side look and things, and we could add, and we may choose, part of that development, most likely we'll add more charging stations anyways.
Yeah.
Are you gonna run 3-phase or 480, or are you gonna just run a 220 60 amp?
Depends what, yeah.
Yeah, it's significant cost
Yeah,
difference.
so we prefer running 3-phase.
That's fast
We
charging, that's
have
an
it.
hour.
We have it here and it's available, and that's what we wanted to do.
That'd be phenomenal.
The higher voltage one, so.
So.
You know about that, so great.
Yeah. So Commission, would you have a problem with us using that north side just for the charging station for our vehicle only?
Yeah, I think that's a place to put them.
Okay, it falls in the budget. It makes the budget for the charging station a lot less, which gives us a little more money to put towards the vehicle. So, and no Davis-Bacon reporting.
Provide everything, we just provide the electrical connection, which is minimal, I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
$15 for us to run that over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And right-
the charging station wouldn't be very much compared to if we did a public one in the back and on the north side. So,
Okay, okay,
okay, great. Well, we have some great direction. We'll get working on both of those, getting that installed and getting the vehicle acquired.
okay, thank you. Thanks,
That's it.
Ashlyn. All righty. Item 5 on our agenda, commissioners, motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thanks, Steph.
All right, keep me on because I want to save for the other one. Christy, you're gonna have to